So I've just got back from the spa, and it just occurred to me that I feel like I know the purpose of why I'm here. When I think about the Milky Way, I can hate that name still, but um, it's I have loads of chocolate bars that I love, loads of a big long list, and Milky Way is actually like right at the bottom. But I feel like things like that are a sign for me to say something, you know. Um, it's strange though, because I would say the main reason why I don't like Milky Way as much is because it's usually a bit smaller. The Snicker bars used to be really big, and the Maltesers and everything, they used to be quite big, and the Mars, but the Milky Ways used to always be quite small. And I would prefer to just go for the others, and I love caramel particularly. But yeah, it's kind of just occurred to me that um, I feel like maybe the reason why this timeline is so much worse than others. Okay, the dinosaurs were here for way, way too long. Um, but I feel like this MW is just really, really big, more bigger than anywhere. Like I might be wrong. This is just my first impressions of this MW when seeing it. When seeing the pictures, it's what, like what that big, like huge, like it's just a galaxy full of galaxies, and yeah, the possibility that that is just the normal galaxy size and all the other galaxies around are just as big. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel true. I mean, if it is, I don't know. But with light traveling, sometimes light can bend and move. The moon, it might be sort of behind Earth, but you can still see it because the somehow the light sort of reflects and bends around the Earth. I know that happens. But yeah, it's I don't trust that just because the MW is massive, I don't trust that all other galaxies are like that, because I don't believe that is. I would say a galaxy is just a sun that's a big ball of rock that's exploded and formed some sort of um, like something you can, with the planets going around and stuff. So that's what I'd call a galaxy. And yeah, I looking at pictures from what I've seen from Earth, it covers a massive, massive span, and it's got loads and loads of clouds in it. And I feel like that's a sign that it's fairly new, with lots of clouds, because it hasn't, the clouds sort of magnetize towards each other, like they're like magnet bits, and they start. Imagine you have like those little metal bits, and they start sticking to each other, and then this is what I think happens with how planets are kind of formed. They gather up all the rocks and get debris around it, and it kind of just it clings together somehow. Um, I don't know how, but it does cling together, and some sort of magnetic force that makes it do that. And I think that's part of the matrix, and it just, yeah, that is my feeling towards the Milky Way, is that it's almost scary. Like oh my god, like how am I going to take over this? Like whoa, this is big. I do believe that I still definitely think I could be the oldest god. I feel like when I paint a room, I wouldn't just go for one side. I'll do this side and that side and this side and that side. And that's how I feel when it comes to, um, if I imagine myself, you know, making timelines all over the universe. I imagine myself going like in all directions, and that's what feels free for me, and natural. But then when I think about this MW, it feels, it's like a sphere or something, and I almost didn't believe that when I first saw it as a sphere, and then I kind of saw the pictures, and I was like, well, that is looking like a sphere, and it is looking like just a massive supernova, and you can see all the dust, and you can see it almost moving, and it's just like, but this is like superly massive, and therefore I feel like I'm here because my higher self has done loads and very experienced, and I think she wants to take over this Milky Way. That could explain why the timeline is so complex, and why it feels so unnecessarily painful. And I know that the longer I'm in, the more I suffer, the stronger I am. And I feel like the more I suffer, also the more I try and find answers, and the more I try and find answers, the more answers I find. And I do know that if I were living with people, talking with people, people have a tendency to put me down in any way possible. You know, I bet if this MW was called something nice, you know, there'd be lots of people that would just be like, oh no, you're just you're just a god of, you're like a god of this MW, which is a really really big place. But that's it. You haven't been elsewhere. But because I'm like on my own and isolated, I can think more about it and just be like, no, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't, if this was a galaxy that I owned, I wouldn't call it that. I wouldn't call it the Milky Way, because it sounds like, one, it sounds like a tiny blonde young boy that's just a fictional character, and it reminds me also of a chocolate bar that I do like. I do enjoy it, but I always remember it being like kind of small. And then I'm kind of thinking about, like, I'm from England, and I really want to go to America. So America's a lot bigger than England, and I don't really know why I want to go to America, because I have been there, and there are some really shitty places in America. But anyway, yeah, I feel like how it is with America is now how I'm feeling about this MW. I'm in this galaxy, which I want to call Rexa, because it reminds me of that toy, and the dinosaurs were way too long, and it's causing me a huge amount of problem. Okay, I know Mars is actually my least favorite bar, but Mars is like, so that's how I'll feel when I leave Earth. Earth. I mean, no one would make a chocolate bar called Earth. Why? Because I think the promoters would realize that Earth sounds like it's saying, they're not going to be able to sell that many Earth bars, because it's like, if people recognize that name sounds like they might not want to eat that chocolate bar. But yeah, so when I get to Mars, I'll be like, finally, I'm away from Earth. But yeah, I think you stay in a sun, and I think this one probably was a really good one, because the sun is massive. I've seen pictures of how big the sun is in comparison to how big Earth is, and the sun is really really big. So if I don't know what's going to happen with Earth. I feel like humans are just destroying it way too much, and I feel like I can't care about Earth, because I'm just looking around and thinking, it's even not even that bad in Birmingham. I mean, it's not that great in Birmingham either. But thinking about what I'm seeing on pictures around the world, and just how awful it is, and thinking about like the images of the sea, and just lots of waste and rubbish, and just the lack of respect towards Earth. I feel like humans are damaging it, and it's being damaged way too fast. But yeah, um, I probably will. I think you stay in the sun until it goes, and the sun's going to be here for a long time. So it's going to be a very long time. But if there's like 7 billion souls, I think my main goal would be to focus on a few people, and get, like, I want to move to America, go from this galaxy to the Milky Way. But you can't take over the Milky Way, because if it really has got billions of stars that are big enough to be called suns, you know I won't be able to do that on myself. I'm going to need lots and lots of I'm going to need a massive army to be able to control this. Okay, I'm sure a lot of the suns are useless because they've got too much dirt, or the cleanup process to get rid of asteroids is probably quite a challenging thing, and hence you need loads of these potential suns, to find a sun that is that you can clear, that you can clean. I don't really know how you do it. I think there was another god here beforehand, who I'm calling Tyra. Um, no, it's Tria. Tria. Is that the name? Tria. I think Tria is how you pronounce it. Tyra. Terra is, you can, I don't know, you can pronounce things in different ways. So Terra is kind of a nice, but Tria is, I don't know, Terra or Tria. Terra, it sounds more like the Buffy. I can't. Well, how's the spelling of that? I don't know. Buffy, but Willow's girlfriend was called Terra or something. This is whatever. It doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, I so that's the point. That's the aim. I think the aim of the reason why this is such a challenging, and why my higher self is probably allowing myself to go through all of this, because she's looking at the Milky Way and she's thinking, I want to control or have a big full takeover of the Milky Way, and therefore we need to get this timeline to be as good as possible to try and evolve as many souls to God's status. Like, okay, we're millions of years away from that. I don't know how many lives you're going to have on Earth. It could be another 10, it could be another 110. Who knows? It depends on how long Earth survives, and if you don't make it to knowing, or in some other realm where you can learn how to make tunnels. I don't know how it will work, but whatever the stages are, the stages will come when they come. I can't tell you that because I don't know myself, but I know my past. I don't know my future. But my future self will know my past, and her past is your future. So my next self knows. I don't know, but my next self knows, and yeah, she will tell you, I guess. But I yeah, if if the Milky Way is as big as I think it is, there is a lot of vacancies. And the fact that a place like this, I mean, according to the pictures, Earth is actually, it's not near the center, but it's not that far out either. It's kind of like halfway in between. And the fact that this has been, I believe it's been lost for 140 billion years, no, million, 140 million years. The fact that this place has been empty for 140 million years shows that there's obviously not that many souls that are scanning this place. I don't know how many there are here. I'm sure there are loads of. I'm sure there are gods here. Definitely, I'm sure there definitely are. How good they are, I don't know. I don't believe that I'm from this place. I feel like if I was from this place, I would have given it a better name. If I felt more controlled, more like I had more control in this MW, I would have named it something better than MW. Um, I would have given it a bar that was like, I would have put it on the Snicker bar. I would have said the Snicker is called a Milky Way, something like that. If I felt more satisfied with that, I was living like that, like the Milky Way was a sort of home galaxy, or home super galaxy, or whatever. I think I would be able to link the name with something better than something that I just give my sister. Usually the Milky Ways are the ones I give to my sister. I do like them, I really do. But that's her favorite, and it's kind of like my seventh favorite out of the celebration box. I think it's like Mars is my worst. No, no, plain chocolate is my worst. Plain chocolate is my worst because that's like a planet that has no souls on it. But chocolate, a galaxy with caramel in, that's like a planet with souls in it. So that I like the galaxy. The least one is the chocolate on its own. Then it's the Mars bar, and then it's yeah, and then I think the Mars, the Milky Way is my third worst, and it's my sister's best. So if we're sharing the box out, she always gets the Milky Ways. But yeah, I feel like that things like that is a sign that the Milky Way is something that I'm going to pass on to the sisterhood or the gods that I make, my kids, I guess. But I don't think I'd want to call them kids. I'd just call them as part of my army. If they get to that status, um, I probably wouldn't be calling them kids. I'd just be calling them like the sisters, or the sisterhood, part of the sisterhood and stuff. So I don't know how many gods there are already in the Milky Way. I'm sure there's loads, but I feel like this place is the Milky Way is scary. Like, wow, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. Like, you don't know where to start. Like, Earth is so big that I can't think about it all, and the Milky Way too is so big that I can't think about it. But it's interesting because when it comes to galaxies around the Milky Way, I feel so much more comfortable there. Like, I'm comfortable in galaxies around the Milky Way, but this one, when I see it, when I feel it, I just think, oh, wow, that's too much to handle, like whoa. But I don't feel that same way about other galaxies, even though uh, the spaceologists might think that other places are bigger. I don't know what they think, but how do you know the other galaxies are bigger than the Milky Way? I mean, how do you know that the Milky Way isn't like massively big, and you're just not seeing it properly because you're assuming that other galaxies are like that? But from how I feel, my feelings are that I feel more connected to the galaxies around the Milky Way, and not so much in. I feel like in is just too much. But hey, if the whole point of doing a really challenging hot timeline is to create loads of gods so that this army of gods can take over the Milky Way, then yeah, that kind of would explain why this birth particularly is really bad.